Good morning. Welcome back to the lesson Bholi. In the previous class, we have seen the synopsis of Bholi and learned about the main points that Mr. K. Abbas, the author, speaks about through his character and lesson Bholi. See, Mr. Khaja Ahmad Abbas, popularly known as K. Abbas, was an Indian film director, screenwriter, novelist and a journalist in the Urdu, Hindi and English languages. He has got many awards. Now, Bholi, the real name of Bholi was Sulekha, and she was called Bholi or a simpleton because she stammered when she spoke and she was not a confident child. She was an abandoned child, an ignored child, a mimicked child, and she was a child with a lot of inferiority complex. See, pockmarks and stammering made her feel inferior to others and made her a laughing stock. Ramlal had to send Bholi to school not because of his desire to educate her and to empower her thereby, but because the Tehsildar had asked him to send his daughters as a model for all other villages when a school for girls was started in the village. She was sent to the school, but she was not happy to go to school in the beginning, for she remembered the cow Lakshmi sent out of their house earlier and never returned. But at school, she saw many girls of her age coming and sitting and learning, and she hoped that she would get a friend there. She was all alone there too. She could not understand what was being taught, though the teacher was saying many things. She started looking around and saw many familiar pictures there. She saw a cow, she saw a parrot, she saw a horse, she saw a goat, and she could associate all of them with the things and objects and animals she had seen in her life. That shows she was not so mentally backward. She was not a mentally challenged child. She had slight problems, of course, which could be corrected if care had been given by her parents in due course, in due time. But that was not given. The teacher was completely different from her parents and siblings. For the first time in her life, she heard somebody speaking to her with a smiling face, in a very kind and soft voice, and in order to pay back, she wanted to speak without any stammering. But out of fear and the complex of inferiority complex, she could not, and she began to cry. She stammered and she knew that all would be laughing at her, and she sat with her head bowed in a corner without having the courage to look up. And she continued sitting there even after the bell was given and the girls scurried out of the classroom. Then the teacher came very close to her, said, "Bholi, you get up and tell me your name." And Bholi just said, "Bo, bo, bo." And she was motivated. This is the most important part of it. A child needs motivation, love and care. That's given here for the first time in Bholi's life. And here onwards, Bholi's life starts transforming. Bholi finally managed to say Bholi and was fully congratulated by the teacher. "Well done. Put the fear out of your heart and you will be able to speak like everyone else." And she looked as if, "Is it possible? Yeah, really? Am I going to?" Then the teacher said, "Yes, you just come to school every day. It's a very easy task. Come to school every day. Come to school every day." Over. Then Bholi was very happy. She is not asking for a great Himalayan task to be completed. She is just asking her to come to school every day. And she just started to go to school regularly, and because the teacher had told her that in 1 month you will be able to read this book, then I will give you a bigger book, then a still bigger one. In time, you will be more learned than anyone else in the village. Then no one will ever be able to laugh at you. People will listen to you with respect and you will be able to speak without the slightest stammer. Understand? Now go home and come back early tomorrow morning. Here we have to see the capability of the teacher in assessing the child. She has rightly understood the fear in the mind of the child. She has rightly understood that she needs support and care. And she is feeling sad about people laughing at her. A wonderful assessment and a wonderful treatment which converts Bholi into someone else. Bholi becomes Sulekha at the end, that we have already seen. So the book also was a colorful book. You remember the old books, nursery books that you had with colorful pictures. For a child first learns through vision, later only letters come. Then Bholi's heart was full of happiness to know that a day would come in her life when she would be respected by others. And the image used, you see, she felt as if all the bells of the village temple were ringing together. And she felt as if the tree in front of the school had bloomed all together. All these are capability of Bholi's mind in bringing images as and when required. Now, years went on. Bholi continued going to school. No one bothered to ask Bholi whether she was learning something, whether she was getting something from school. It was a ritual. Bholi used to get up, get ready, go to school. And in due course, when all other children were married and settled, a proposal came there to ask Bholi's hand. Father, you see, is a bit more considerate than mother. Father is suspecting whether it's proper to get the daughter married to an elderly man with grown-up children. But mother, see, has no hesitation. No other chance. This is the only chance, and we are fortunate that Bishambarnath does not know about her mental and physical deformities. And he is a rich grocer with a home of his own and a lot many cash in the bank, a lot of money in the bank. Finally, she compelled her husband to accept the proposal, and Bholi was listening to their conversation. She had no plans of marrying, but she understood that the parents, in order to keep up, underline their izzat or honor, had to get her married off. An unmarried daughter at home is a shame for the family, and hence they wanted to get her married without thinking whether she would be happy there, whether it is proper to marry such an elderly man to this girl. No questions. And she accepted. The marriage was a very big affair. Bishambarnath came with a big barat, a big party, playing music, and he was riding on a horse, and all the pomp and luxury made everyone happy. And at the time of marriage, she was brought, and her face was covered in the red veil, and they were about to exchange the garland. Suddenly, when the veil was slipped back, in order to get him a chance to put the garland round her neck, for the first time, Bishambarnath saw his prospective bride and was shocked. "Have you seen her? She has pock marks on her face," he said to his friends. But his friends were okay. "So what? You are not young either." But he said, "Maybe I am not young, but if I have to marry this girl, I should get a dowry of rupees 5,000. Ramlal went and placed his turban, his honor. See, it's a symbol of his honor, and at the feet of his would-be son-in-law, and pleaded, "Don't humiliate me, so take 2,000 rupees. It's a bargaining. Is a girl an object in the market to be bought after such a big bargaining? Is marriage a business proposal?" These are the social evils, and these are the questions that we should ask ourselves. Is there any role the girl has to play here? Is anyone asking her permission? No. This was the condition in India, and this is the condition of India even today, in some part at least, in some parts of the country at least, where education is not much given to girls. And finally, the money was placed at his feet, and he was about to marry Suddenly, Bholi refused. No. She said, take back the money, and she was not going to marry the man. And everyone was thunderstruck. What? A girl. And two, they never knew that she could speak so clearly without a state of stammering. For the first time, such a surprise it's to know. For the first time, the family realizes that the youngest child can speak without any stammering. And the people made fun of her. But she said no. Though father insisted on her getting married to the man for the izzat of the family, the honor of the family, she said no chance. I agreed for this unequal match and agreed to marry this lame old fellow for your happiness and honor. See, such an insult for him. I will not marry such a mean, greedy, contemptible coward as my husband. What else is required for insulting a man like Bishambarnath, who was trying to make use of the chance that he found? And an old lady said, called her a shameless girl, and she began to speak. So far you all thought that I was a dumb cow. Now the dumb cow could speak, and she asked whether she wanted her to hear more. Bishambarnath realized that he was not going to get the money, he was not going to get married, and hence returned with his party. And see the comic element here. See, Bishambarnath the grocer started to go back with his party. The confused bandsman thought this was the end of the ceremony and struck up with a closing song. This comic scene is in fact a comic relief provided to the reader whose heart is just pumping more because of the tension that is created. Would Bholi agree for the match? Would Bishambarnath take the money? Would Bholi's father give the money? All those tensions are now released. This is the comic relief we have here. But the father and daughter are left there with the family members, and all the guests had gone. Father was really depressed, dejected, disheartened, wondering what to do next with this daughter. Would anyone come to marry? For in his imagination, as far as his idea goes, a girl's life becomes complete only when she gets married. What would we do with you? Is the question. But what about you? No one will ever marry you now. What shall we do with you? And the answer is the classic one. Don't you worry, Pidaji. In your old age, I will serve you and mother, and I will teach in the same school where I learned so much. Isn't that right, ma'am? Again, a question of gender discrimination comes here. Who said that a girl cannot take care of the parents when they become old? Who said that it's the duty of the son to take care of the parents when they become old? No one. Both the son as well as the daughter are equally responsible, just as equally they deserve equal status. The teacher had all along stood in a corner watching the show. In fact, it was a show. The teacher had all along stood in a corner watching the drama. Yes, Bholi, of course, she replied, and in her smiling eyes was the light of a deep satisfaction that an artist feels when contemplating the completion of her masterpiece. Bholi was the teacher's masterpiece, the best creation. All her time, everything was devoted on this girl, and she shaped this girl into a real human being with the virtue, quality, and values. Now, there are so many new words that we find in our story, and a dictionary should be used to find out the meaning of these words. There are many words like mattered, fear-laden, squatted, and this lesson should be read, and the new words should be noted down. Their meanings and usages should be noted down and learned. Now, the points that we learn from this story. See, the story Bholi teaches us the impact of family on children. Bholi is a little girl who fails to develop self-confidence because of her parents' attitude towards her. The story shows that family support and emotional security are essential for proper child development. Fortunately for Bholi, there was a teacher, but for many, no one is there, and they become neglected, they live neglected, and they die neglected. The importance of education is also stressed upon in this lesson, and the role of a real teacher in a child's life. Remember, education is like a philosopher's stone which can turn base metal into gold. Alchemy you have heard of. Necessity for gender equality is also equally stressed upon in this lesson that we have discussed earlier, and you have to note down the points that comes to your mind and come forth with a discussion. So this is an activity. See, some posters are put here. Go through them and frame your own posters using the ideas that you get from the lesson. And this story should be converted into a drama. It's an exercise in grammar as well, for you are practicing reported speech there. Direct speech. The question now asked to you is to convert the reported sentences into direct speech, indirect speech into direct speech, and form a drama which is in fact a preparation for writing your own dramas and then stage it. Then you can write a story of your own about some of the social evils that you see, suggesting certain measures to stop them. Then think how Bholi becomes Sulekha in the last part of the story and write short articles about the following topics, that is importance of education and the role of a teacher in a student's life. So everyone need not do all these activities. Make 4 groups in the class and each group take up one activity and just exchange. Now these questions are given here. These questions should be read, understood, and the answers should be discussed and later written into your notebook. I thank you for listening to me.